Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish C10 Demonio Dinaja 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 Abarera Legos Ram Abarera, Legos, Ori, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, Abarera, Legos, Ori, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, Abarera, Legos, Ori, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, Abarera, Legos, Ori, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dina, Ori, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, Abarera, Legos, Ori, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, Abarera, Legos, Ori, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, Abarera, Legos, Ori, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, Banish, C10, Demonio, Dinaja, Abarera, Legos, Ori, 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 Banish, Naja. Abarera. Nikos. C10. Demonio. Dinaja. Abarera. Nikos. Ram. Ori. Banish. C10. Demonio. Dinaja. Abarera. Nikos. Ram. Ori. Banish. C10. Demonio. Dinaja. Abarera. Nikos. Ram. Ori. Banish. C10. Demonio. Dinaja. Abarera. Banish. C10. Demonio. Dinaja. Abarera. Nikos. Ram. Ori. Banish.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Apocrypha. Sorry for the late start here, but we're having some technical issues. OBS updated and made things more confusing than they should be. So had to screw around with that. But good, a couples thing here. Let me see, I got to back that up. Oh, I can back that up a little bit. There we go. All right, rock on. So yeah, so we got Rook and Mystic, myself and Dyra. We got our own occult panel going on over here, everyone. I'm kind of excited for this development in the show. All right, let's turn that off. There we go. So I chose a simple yet not necessarily simple, but somewhat simple topic for this evening. Kind of talking about kind of like beginning your path onto the occult, right? Like how to choose what direction to go in, what to start with, where to start, how to start, all that stuff. It's something we've talked about a few other times, but we didn't have, this plethora of opinions when we spoke about it in the past. So I think it'll be fun to get into. Now, as always.
So this one's going to be a little bit different since we're doing this different. Meaning, Rook is going to run the cards up so you can actually see them because we don't have our tarot deck set up. But I'm going to get that fixed. You can't see it, but you will see it better in a minute. And this is the Choose Your Own Adventure Tarot. So we're nerding out on this. I don't particularly like the artwork. It's not my favorite. The card stock is pretty crappy. This was definitely a mass grab. Back away from the camera. This is definitely like a cash grab kind of deal, where they wanted to just, put something out and have people spend money on it. It's neat. The Choose Your Own Adventure part is just supposedly the style, but I'm like, it would have been really cool if you're going to do a Choose Your Own Adventure, that it had some sort of gameplay with it would have been interesting styling. It is bordered, but what's cool about the borders, which again, you'll see in a minute, I know it's too far now, the borders actually are within the image, so the image extends past the borders, and that's something I actually kind of enjoy. They're reversible, so you can't tell if they're upside down or not, which is great. And yeah, this is a deck I actually picked up when I was in Pittsburgh. So I've been working with them this evening, and I've been shuffling them around and trying to see what we get. And for the energy that's coming up, oh, and boy, there's energy all around. Things are definitely on the move. But let's see what we get. So I'm going to pull all three cards first, and then you can take them up if you don't mind. Fluffy Cloud, do you mind?
You guys' video is really choppy.
Oh, that's weird. Yours does not seem to be choppy at all over here, and it does look that way. That's on this guy, but it should be okay though. This is the same system we streamed on. Same setup. Nothing changed, so I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
if anything would be different. Okay. This is really nice and straightforward. Hopefully the audio at least isn't choppy. We do
No,
have
the
some
audio's
changes we're
fine.
gonna have
Yeah,
to
the
make for
audio's
this.
good.
Good. Okay. I also know that it's refocusing every 5 seconds. It's not having a good idea or a good time trying to focus on this. We have the Eight of Pentacles, the Hanged Man, and the Five of Wands. And what's cool about this spread is this is an immediate, like, I know what's happening here, right? You can see immediately what's happening in these three cards because they really go together almost in a storyline. This dog is making weird noises. I apologize. It was not licking me. The Eight of Pentacles. I like to refer this to, and many people do traditionally, as the masterwork card. What that means is Eight of Pentacles represents things that we have honed our super creativity in, honed what we're really good at, the things that we're really proud of. Think of the carpenter, the blacksmith, the jeweler, all these individuals that the cobblers, have these things that they just were talented at and successful at. And the Eight of Pentacles represents being skillful at those things and bringing them in and being proud of something. So it would be really important or really meaningful to think of this as, hey, you're working through something. It's something that you're good at. It's going to be a great piece, but you need to refine it a little bit more. You're getting there. It's really close to the end. You've got all you need to do it. So if you're, what's a good example? You're, like an ice sculptor, right? And you've perfected one of your techniques, but it's just not right yet. You want to go back and keep doing a little bit more. So use the energy around you right now to really hone in your mastercraft. If you're really interested in a topic, learn more about it right now. But more than that, practice it. You can't just read about it or look at it. You've got to actually do it. So continue doing it and honing that mastercraft. The Eight of Pentacles can also really stand out when you are getting ready to finish a project, and it's going to be a good one. So if you are right now working on something for work or for your personal life, that's like maybe an art gallery or a project you've been working on, it's good, and take credit for it. Let it be good. Give it some editing, but you're on point with this, and this is something that you're going to want to be proud of. This is something you put in your portfolio. The next card is the Hanged Man. Hanged Man has so many obvious reasons or meanings. The biggest one being for me, perspective, right? So allow this masterwork or this energy that you're working on, this creativity, allow it to be looked at from a different perspective. Allow yourself to experience it in a different way. You're being forced to look at something that you probably don't want to look at it from that perspective. So I think of things like, you told me, or I have this thing, this masterwork. It's really nice, but some people actually maybe have critiqued it really poorly. The Hanged Man doesn't say change it. The Hanged Man says consider looking at it from another perspective and see if that changes anything. Your Five of Wands is going to tell you not to change anything, by the way. But really focusing on our energy right now, and I feel this, it's been very creative for me, and which is not my normal thing, but lots of creativity, lots of things that we're working on and practicing and doing, and we need to really hone in and work harder on that craft. And it's, again, not just learning about it, because it's practicing it. It's actually doing it. If you have to carve it for the 10th time, carve it for the 11th time, 12th time, because this is going to be one of your best works, and you're going to want to make it perfect. Um, and then your last card, the Five of Wands. Five of Wands is not a happy card for me. Not a good. I hate saying a good or bad card. It's not a card that means or feels like things are going well. Sometimes feels like you're stuck. Maybe even have in your masterwork, right? This and by the way, masterwork doesn't mean the magnum opus. We're talking about a thing that's very skillfully done, not this huge, big, massive thing. Let me clarify that. So the Five of Wands might need some paying attention to. It even can represent sometimes making a big mistake and not catching it until the end. So the moral of the energy in the read this week is really hone in on your creativity, really do some extra practice, really be proud of the things that you're doing, and really focus on that creative point of things and use that energy to develop things in a way that'll help you. But be you've always wanted to, you should. You want to learn a new craft or something, you should. If you want to become and take your stuff to the next level, you should, and you hone it through practice. Practice, practice, practice. It's a neat little deck. Nothing incredible. But yeah,
Overall, a very positive read.
it is a very positive read. It's just wasn't even planning on either because I've been in a bad mood all week.
Um, Especially because like I've been, there's been a creative project that I've been working on for, the last couple of months actually. So,
This is like, do something different so that you can get out of your writer's block.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
I feel that. I feel that. So yeah, so
Wow.
jumping in on the subject right off the bat. So again, this is something that we've covered a few times on the channel, kind of talking about how to get started on a path, right? Now, I understand that many of you that are here are already on your path, walking off a path and walking through the grass. I guess there's no problem with that either, but I think that this is definitely something that, can be touched on at several different times with different amounts of detail, especially now that we have more people, because last time we talked about it was just Mystic and myself, right? So they kind of started out, I myself, when kind of sitting there and thinking about, what like type of occultist I want to be, I don't like labels. Somebody likes to call me a chaos magician, and I completely disagree with that statement. I don't know who that somebody could be. No idea. But I don't like
probably
labels.
agree with that somebody else.
I like to just kind of go with what feels right in the moment and what I'm working with or what I'm worshiping. And I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna to a certain degree with certain entities. I'm gonna stop using the term working with in favor of being a dedication, or worship. Because with certain entities, I would go as far as saying that I worship that entity, right? I show worship and reverence to that entity. I don't work with that entity. I ask that entity to give me a kick in the ass when I need it. So that's just another thing that you might hear kind of change as I'm speaking here. But I think the first thing that needs to kind of be looked at is honestly what you're attracted to. Like what do you feel a pull or a draw towards? That's going to be like the biggest thing, right? Not like which one's the most powerful, which one's the strongest, which one's this, which one's that, which one does this better, which one does that better. But starting out, I definitely say go with what feels like it's pulling you towards it, right? That is definitely where I would kind of start that journey. We're gonna jump over to Rook. So, Rook, what would you add to that? Like, if somebody is kind of starting out, you know?
I would agree, and I would say to maybe even if you feel a strong pull to something, don't dedicate to it right away. Read everything on anything that you're interested in. That's what I did, and it's not. I mean, I didn't really do Christianity because that's how I was raised, but anything nature based or the magic path. Just read, and ask questions. You know, if there's a metaphysical shop, lack of better words, in your area, go in, see who hangs out, talk to people. But just try to learn from people and books and things, all you can about as many things as you can. I know that's be helpful.
All right. That's, I mean, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. Like, I mean, even if you do feel a draw to something, don't just kind of like drop on your knees and try to start talking to it, right? Like, you know, read what everything that you can about that, you know, particular thing and, you know, move forward with it. Now, kind of doing kind of like a crisscross here. Dairo, how would you?
It's interesting 'cause this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, when it comes to my practice, and demonolatry. And I feel like, and this is just based on my experience, when you get into demonolatry, it's kind of like a snowball going down a hill, and it kind of builds up speed. And I don't know if you've like ever been in the sea, in like another country or in your own country, but like in some places, when you go into the sea to have a swim, you can feel the ground kind of going down, and then suddenly it just drops, and like can't stand up anymore. Like I remember being in Turkey, and then like just like being in the sea, and then suddenly I'm just like out of my decks. It just the like seafloor just drops off, right? And I feel like this is a metaphor for like what it's like when you get into demonolatry. It's like it can build up really quickly, and suddenly it's just like, you know, you're obsessed, and you know, you're doing the absolute most. So I think that can be difficult to sort of it's difficult to work with demons slowly. I find I find that it's something that progresses very quickly, and so it's something that people be kind of prepared for. And I was also thinking, like, you know, certain decisions I made earlier on in my practice, would I have still made those same decisions today? And it's not that those decisions were necessarily bad ones, but they definitely required more thought. Um, and that's relating to certain, like committing myself to certain entities in particular way. Is it as authentic? Was I being authentic at the time I did that? And like I said, there's nothing kind of wrong with it. I'm just kind of looking at things like, you know, would I have done anything differently? So yeah, I do think there's a lot of importance on trying to take it slow, but I think taking it slow can be a difficult thing with certain paths because they progress really quickly and kind of like are all consuming.
Yeah, I can feel that. I mean, I feel like if I look at like my path when I started, I think everything kind of went the way that it needed to go, for me to get to where I am with my practice. And I mean, I started where a lot of people start, with Wicca. And you know, I remember being all into, you know, the candle magic and the herbs and, you know, all of that stuff that kind of goes with it, and some of that still serves me today. You know, a lot of it doesn't. A lot of it I've let go of. I used to be really into kind of like numerology and astrology and things of that nature, and I just kind of dropped that ball completely because it just really kind of irritated me. So I just kind of let it drift off. So Mystic, You're up.
So I kind of think of just two things that come to mind. One is where to start with just um, learning a belief system or things about a belief system, and then where to start with deities or energies.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest thing for me that I did wrong was I wasn't curious enough about other things in the beginning. I found one thing, I liked that one thing, and I'm like, oh, doing all of that thing instead of, oh, I like that, but what are the other things that could be that? And then kind of, maybe parsing out a little bit. So I think being curious is probably one of the most, to me, the most effective ways to really start to learn something, because I know, like you said earlier, you don't like labels, and I do in some cases, and I don't in some cases, and that's one of those areas where the labels are very helpful to see what you're looking at, but they're very negative and very bad because they make you think you are locked into that one thing.
Hmm.
So a lot of people, I mean, I've even looked about getting back into Wicca, because once you get to a certain point and you start learning things, that is that the whole understanding of Wicca, people go back to it. And I wasn't curious enough when that started, when I first got into it. And I agree with what everybody said. We need to read stuff. We need to look at stuff. Um, but again, be curious. That's probably the best advice I would go back and give myself about other things first, because at this point, I can't label my practice. I do label it so that people can try to get a hold on it, eclectic witchcraft, paganism. But it's none of that. It could be Druidic today. It could be, and 3 years ago, I never would have said anything about any, you know, left hand path or anything. So those things change.
Hmm.
And I think if I would have been more curious in the beginning, I might have found some of these things a little bit earlier. Um, and then second, when it's like working with deity, how do you choose to work with deity? I mean, you can learn from people. They teach you to do things, but hopefully most people that teach working with deity kind of teach you how to call out to and then
Hmm.
figure it out, because you can't just say, oh, you know what, I'm going to work with, I go back to my originals, Carnunos. You don't just
Hmm.
work with Carnunos. Hey, Carnunos, I'm here. Let's do this. No, that's not the first deity I worked with. Even though that's what I wanted it to be. When I was 15, you want the sexy, horny goat, deer man, antler stag in the woods, right? But that's not how it worked out, and that was really neat to kind of have that. Here's where you get started. Go meditate, see what happens. Put yourself in Indian style, cross-legged in the ground, feet, toes in the sand, whatever, and see what happens to get started.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's kind of how I look at it. I
Yeah.
wish I was more curious more than anything.
And I do kind of feel like what you said, like when you said kind of going back to Wicca, I don't necessarily have like a desire to go back to Wicca, but I've said this before recently. I think one thing that I appreciate about my time in Wicca, and something that I feel that all occultists should do from time to time, regardless of what you worship or what you work with or what you walk with or however you want to label that, you always want to go back to the earth, right? Like you always want to go back to the earth, and I think that that's something that like, um, I mean, I don't know, maybe you can attest to it as well. That when you're working with different entities, demons, whatever, you can very quickly get caught up in that
Mm.
and forget kind of like where all that starts, where all that energy comes from, what it feeds through, what you're connected to, which is the earth, right? And kind of the earth recharges, like that battery that gets drained when you're doing that work, you know. And if you
I know
forget
I
to go
just talked a
back,
lot, and I hate to
yeah, go.
I hate to interrupt, but I want to ask a question along this line of you guys to see if this helps me understand it better, maybe everybody else too. Um, when you say Earth, I think most people think of like the green and blue and white cloud ball Earth. that's not what I see when I think of Earth. Was that what you guys like when you talk about Earth? Is that what you're saying,
I'm talking more. I mean,
or are
I'm
you talking
like
I mean,
it's a
yes,
part of
nature,
it, but
but
that's
more
not.
than
It's
that.
a part of it, but that's not what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah, that's what I
Earth
thought.
as like an energetic entity, right? I mean, how would you
Mhm.
describe Earth? Like, would you describe it as the physical thing, or
So if you look at it from like a tree of life perspective, Earth being the Sephra of Malkuth at the bottom of the tree, that is the place that receives all of the light from all of the other Sephiroth, which is you know, why you start there. So Malkuth is like the starting point. It's the kingdom. It's where you're physically based. And I think with that being the start, I don't know how to explain it. It's not like yeah, I don't know. I don't have the words. I
okay?
don't have the words.
Mystic, how would you describe it?
I mean, it's that what you said earlier, and I think it is kind of indescribable too, and that's why I don't really want to interrupt, but when you say Earth, I think it's important to point out that um, it's not just talking about like dirt. It's kind of like when we talk about the universe. Well, you can have an idea of the universe being the Earth or bigger than the Earth or the world, and I kind of use universe and Earth that they're kind of the same to me, not really, but when I'm talking about Earth, I'm talking about the bigger Earth. I mean, this could be the Earth of planet Z59 or whatever. It's not just our Gaia Earth. It's the energy that is touchable, tangible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what it is, and
Yeah.
so it's really like to me when you guys were talking, that's what I was picking up, but I didn't know if that was true, so I wanted to ask
Well, yeah,
you.
that's definitely like. I mean, there's definitely for me, there's definitely like a tree hugger aspect to it, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
there's definitely the out in nature part to it. You know, like just like you said, kind of getting back out to what you can actually touch. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's literally what like if someone was to describe what Malkuth is, it would be that which is tangible. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and I just feel like, not being afraid to kind of go back to that, like, because I feel like as occultists, some occultists, like, we feel like um we're going backwards if we do that, and I don't think so. I don't think if you go back into your practice and you rehash things that you've practiced in the past because you feel a call to it, you're not going backwards. Like there is no going backwards in this. Let's just put it that way. It's adding
you're
on
leveling
top
up.
of what is already there. It does not mean that you can't go back and rehash and redo some things that you haven't done in years. That's not going backwards. It's recharging the batteries. So, like for me, like the whole getting out in the nature thing, one of the things that I love being out here, like, is our little mud-ridden walks through nature. For as much as I hate the mud, I love every other aspect of the walk, and I love that, being out in nature, touching a tree, whatever,
I've never seen anyone get so angry about mud. We go out
That's
like bearing in
hilarious.
mind like we live in the country, right? We live in the countryside, and you can walk probably about a quarter of a mile before like you start getting into like muddy bits. And someone decided to wear their suede suede sneakers over their boots, and so it inevitably gets muddy, and he's slipping all over the place, like almost falling over. And I'm trying not to laugh because I can see how pissed off he is. And then we come out of the muddy bit. He's just like, "We need to get home right now. I need to clean my shoes, and we need to like acting like it's like a life or death situation." I promise you, your shoes are going to be fine. But yeah, I've
That
never
is
seen
awesome.
anyone get so stressed out about mud.
To be
look,
fair,
I can't say anything.
You're the same way.
Well, not with mud, but with certain things, yes.
Look, well, the way I explained it. So when we went for the walk, I initially said, "All right, I don't want to go through mud." And so for the most of the walk, we stayed pretty dry. And then she comes up with the brilliant idea. I was like, hey, let's go up this way. It doesn't look that bad. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. We'll go up this way. And the more we go down this path, this footpath, the muddier and muddier it gets. And so I don't mind it if I'm dressed for it, hence the reason I have boots, right? And I'm expecting it. It is what it is, right? But I wasn't dressed for it. I
Sounded like
wasn't
a trial and
expecting it.
tribulation to me.
What's that?
That sounded like a trial to me.
So, yeah, my good sneakers got all muddy. They're fine now. I cleaned them. She was right. They were fine. But I did clean them immediately. But yeah, so I was very frustrated with the mud. But also, to be very clear, right? I didn't get angry with Dyra, like, and I said that multiple times. I'm not angry at you. I'm just angry at the fact that there's mud on me that I wasn't expecting to have on me. So, but that being said, even though I got upset about the mud, I still did enjoy the walk. And it's actually a walk that I would like to do again with boots. Because just the look of, like, there's like a ravine or something on that path. There's like a whole drop off. It looks like there might have been like a body of water.
Yeah, because it's okay, I'm good. There's like the ruins of like this old castle. So yeah, I think that was definitely like a moat.
Oh, that could have been part of the moat. That's right, because we came up behind the castle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we say castle, there's only like one pillar left of the castle.
Yeah, and a few like ruins around the edge.
There's like some like maybe stone walls, but that's it. Like it's nothing. It's really nothing to write home about. So
I'm jealous too. It sounds neat anyway.
Well, a hold on heritage, at least the physical parts of the heritage of how the country was built and developed and things like that. Right where the ruins of this castle are, there's also a church there, right? And it's a really old one. Like, I mean, really old. And it's just beautiful, right? Like, you also get, like, you know, the houses with the moss on the top of it. And us as Americans, we look at that and say, oh, that's, you know, that's cool. That looks good. You know, that has some character to it. You know, moss on the roof. I fucking hate you. She's like, that's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
Clean your shit.
So, but I guess it kind of shows the difference that, like, if you grow up with that stuff, you're just kind of like, no, that's horrible. But us as Americans are like, no, that's cultural. So I don't know. Right? Like, Teresa's like, oh, that sounds amazing. Yeah. No. I think it looks good. I think it adds some nice.
Amazing.
It does sound amazing.
There's also houses with what's the type of roof called? The thatch?
Thatched roof, yeah.
Yeah. Like, they actually have, like, thatched roofs. Like, that's just,
wow.
it's
Like
just
roofs made of straw.
like, that's still a thing. It's crazy.
Well, it's not really still a thing. It's the buildings are fucking 700 years old. Like, they're not still making houses with thatched roofs.
But still, the thing is, like, it hasn't been updated.
Well, I mean, they're keeping it up. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Keep it
Yeah.
up somehow that takes a lot of work.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
maintenance on that has to be ridiculous to keep that.
But yeah, I don't like thatched roofs because you just know the amount of like fucking bugs and spiders in there. Just like, no. They look nice,
hell
but no.
There would be no chance. I'd rather be in a tent.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's true.
Yes. You can seal a tent with a zipper.
Right? You'd be in the house with a tent. Nothing can get me in
Exactly.
here. So, yeah. But again, going back to the point though, like, so the idea is, like, even like those walks, being surrounded by nature and everything like that, Um, I might not be doing a ritual or any ritualistic activity while I'm going for a walk, but there's something that is definitely charging about walking through nature. Right? There's definitely something to it that's just to refresh ourselves. And we shouldn't be afraid to take those things that were important to us before and then incorporate those into the things that we do today, even if it's just in part and not in whole. But I don't believe that there is any regressive aspect to being an occultist. Everything you do is a progression forward and adds on to the foundation that you built at the beginning. And I guess what this podcast, this episode is focusing on is that beginning. What foundation do you want to start with? And I think the main consensus here is knowledge, information, learning, meditation, right? All those types of things, right? So I definitely think that that's something that should be looked at when you're starting out, when you're trying to figure out what you want to work with or what you want to kind of call on, is start with what you can touch. Start with what draws you in. Start with where the pull is, and then allow yourself to build from that, brick by brick. There are people in the occult that are experts in divination. There are people in the occult that are experts in working with herbs. There are experts in candle magic. So you can pick something to be an expert in, or you can be a jack of all trades. Just kind of like your imagination really is kind of like your limit when it comes to the occult and what you can learn and what you can do. And I think one thing that I would change is in my practice is as my practice developed, my practice became more methodical. And I lost, for a little while, I lost that childhood wonder that was attached to it. That excitement to be in ritual, that excitement to open up a new book, that excitement to learn new things. If there's anything I would say to avoid, I would say avoid being methodical in your practice. Avoid losing that wonder, because that wonder, in my opinion, that childlike wonder is half of the power that you have in the craft, is being excited about the things that you're doing and being excited about the things that you're learning. Right? So, I mean, Diarrhea, what do you think? I mean, do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I'm getting some like tarot imagery. Like, we say like return to earth. I'm thinking like return to the fall, as in like what the fall represents in the beginning of the tarot. That kind of like level of innocence, like not so much like to the point where you're naive, but more like the positive aspects of the fall, like embarking on something new and the excitement that comes from that, and the childlike wonder, and yeah.
Rook, what do you think?
Well, going back to what we all said earlier about learn everything you can about different things. But one thing I wish I wouldn't have done, this could have been my ADHD or excitement, because I never finished. And then what was the other one?
That's
Oh yeah, the one that told me my ritual I couldn't use the elements. So while it's good to study everything, I was so desperate to be a part of the group, and came to know that a great part of studying the magical arts is working alone and working with people if you want to. But so don't just sign up for the first thing that you come across, because you could be like me and go through 4 or 5 and not complete any of them. Take a lot of good stuff from all of them, but there's no pressure to be involved or with someone or a group that says you have to do something this way, because you're probably not going to stick with it if it's very rigid.
And what I think I felt like both of us were looking for was if we went into this group, we would belong to it and have other people we could do stuff with.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I wanted a coven fun. That's all I wanted. I wanted to find a coven, be in a coven, be close with a coven, live, and that just ended up that that's not what I was to do.
Nope.
Yeah,
So just be careful about.
I think signing up for something at the beginning, like I think, might be too rigid. Like if you're into the practice for a while and then you want some more structure, then I'd say definitely like go ahead and look for a group that you can work with to some degree. But I think one of the things we've talked about a lot, one of the reasons we all go to the occult, is to get away from that structure, right? That religious evangelical structure of rules and rigidity, and you can do this but you can't do that, and you can say it this way but don't say it that way. You can't do it this way. If you do it this way, it's not going to work. Because I think that can be more discouraging than anything else, because you're going from one methodical system into another, and you're not going to have the full spectrum of what it is to be working in the craft. And when I say the craft, I use that as a term to kind of encompass all of the occult. So whether you're working with demons, whether you're working with gods, whether you're working with the fae, the craft falls into all of that, right? And as anything, the reason it is called the craft, a craft, is because it is constantly evolving, it is constantly building, it is constantly growing. It is something that you have to work on. You have to work on it to make it work for you. Now, Mystic, what would you like to add to that aspect of things we've been talking about here?
Well, I mean, I think the really based on what he said, it's and I know people are talking about covens now too, in groups. I think realizing that what we were looking for was not to walk somebody else's path, but to at least be on a path that's adjacent to somebody that you can socialize with, because that's what it was for me. I thought it was a coven that I wanted. I didn't. I wanted a group that there was some social aspect to, so that I could communicate with and bounce ideas off of. Reading a book. Hey, I read in this book X, Y, and Z. Doesn't really fit for me. What do you think? Oh, I think it's stupid. Okay. We go practice, and then we go back to practicing our different ways. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the idea for me, is that social aspect of when you get started in an occult group. That's what's bad. If you try to jump right into something like that, like a school or a coven, it does the same thing I talked about earlier. It blinders you to the other things that are options out there, and you kind of don't get an opportunity to see where they are. There's nothing wrong,
I
but
had to bring that up because we had a bad experience
some very bad experiences,
from
but they were still valuable.
oh, definitely.
And I still, like, we meet with people still randomly talk about stuff, but when it comes into the day, I'm doing my own magic. I'm not relying on anybody else
Mm-hmm.
to put me through a process. If I wanted that, I'd go back to Sunday school.
Well, and also I think also working in a coven, though, like Hollywood likes to make covens look very attractive. Like how Hollywood kind of sets up a coven and how covens look. Like if you look at like TV shows and movies that have covens in them. Honestly, in my experience, to find a coven where you have that type of dynamic with the people in the coven, I don't know of anyone that has that good, that solid of a dynamic in their coven. Right? Like, because you are inevitably going to run into powerful personalities, and people want to do things in a certain way. And then if somebody else doesn't want to do it that way, or they don't feel comfortable doing it that way, then it can turn into a conflict, because now you're stepping on somebody's toes. Everybody wants to be a leader. And unfortunately, it makes the occult political, right? Like it creates a bureaucracy inside of that coven and it creates that the internal political structure that you just don't want, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think in terms of the topic of where to start in the occult, I would highly recommend not starting in a coven, and I would highly recommend having people who think and believe different, and but that will still not push you to do one thing or another.
mm-hmm.
Like I think that's really it.
And it's crazy what he was talking about political wanting to be a leader. And the group we were in, I was a co-chair with somebody else of like the leader. And boy, I I did things and acted ways I'm not proud of. I mean, it really it got away from the point of why we were meeting.
Well, I mean, let's
Mhm.
be honest. We clearly identified what the problem was going to be, and we called it, and it actually happened. But nobody wanted to listen. Yep, that's okay. I like
So,
groups, but they're meant for loose associations. They're meant for going
Yeah.
out for pizza afterwards.
mhm.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
meant for bouncing ideas off each other. They're meant for chatting about things. Everything else, and when I say groups, I'm talking about like big groups. Everything else, one on one. And while I'm at it, I'll just add, in addition to be curious, which would be my rule number one. If I had my own, if I was teaching somebody, that was gospel.
Yeah.
Until you have worked through it yourself, you can't say what's going to happen or how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
definitely.
know,
Your energy is different.
So, what is your view on group work, covens, things like that, and especially like in the realm of beginners?
Mm, yeah, but groups and covens were never really my thing. I loosely associate with a group or two, and people that I know or consider friends from other groups. And I've partaken in a group ritual or two. But yeah, it's like a regularity thing. Absolutely not into it. And in terms of a beginner pursuing that, I feel like it gives you an opportunity to hide behind other people and perhaps not feel like you're fully stepping into your own power due to confidence issues. And then, you can build up this kind of thing in your mind that, about all the opinions of other people, and you're not really getting your own sort of like autonomous
Mm-hmm.
view on things. And, it's just always been a thing in groups that there's always some sort of drama
Mm-hmm.
going on, always.
Yep.
I've
No,
never
Oh my God, yes.
well, crazy.
even like the Golden Dawn and Aleister Crowley, like they fucking hated Crowley. He pissed off a lot of people. It's it's just always been a thing. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that can just ruin
We
something that could be a great experience.
A lot of people start groups because they wanted to be the leader of something. They wanted to be the head of something. They wanted to be the voice of something.
oh for sure.
Not necessarily for the magic itself, but because they wanted to be revered as someone, like Aleister Crowley or Levy or something of that nature, or even like Anton LaVey or Michael Ford in more recent times. And you know, if you're in a group, if you're looking at a group and you can tell, and I think the thing is it's something that you can tell, you can pick up on when you start talking to people. If you're in a group and it's not to be about the magic, it needs to be about the power and the energy that's being produced, not about who's leading it and who isn't. Mystic, you looks like you're going to say something.
No, I was just thinking, we've done some really incredible group work. A really good distance group work too, where we've all communicated, got on the phone together and separated out and did some pretty meaningful stuff. But I don't think any of them would I feel like we're in a coven at any given moment. It was all about the magic. That's why it didn't matter that we were in a coven. We were a loosely associated group of people with very different ideologies and thought processes, but we came together for a specific reason and did specific magic. And you didn't need a coven. That didn't change. The dynamic was insanely incredible
And we were very in sync
and very in sync.
here.
And the backside of that from the leadership aspect is that it's absolutely correct. Like I know I can be take control over things sometimes. And you have to know that about your group and yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of groups are really about being and maintaining that control. It's one of the reasons I like the Temple of Set so much. Their control, it's not, there's no person that's controlling things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very well thought out. And if you like it, cool, come check it out. If you don't, cool, don't come check it out, but don't get in our way.
Uh-huh.
So, and that leader thing, I mean, you're always going to have that dynamic because people are people, and they're going to people,
Mm-hmm.
and
People are going to people.
gods and energies are gods and energies, and they're going to god and energy.
Yep. I mean, I think the best thing to kind of like take from that is there's a phrase that I heard that I like how it fits, and it's just expect people to be who they are.
Mhm.
That's it. That's simple. Don't
And they will
expect
show you.
anything else
Believe
from
them.
anyone other than them being who they are.
Yep.
You might not
And
know
when
who
show
they
you,
are,
believe them.
but you can expect them to be who they are. So, and that's it. Like,
I want to put out some Lewis. Often people join groups for the social relationship purposes. There are the exceptions. I don't think so. I'll be 100% transparent. My only reason for joining groups is for social relationship purposes. I like that they're magic that I can talk to them about stuff, but I don't want to do group magic in most cases. So I don't think it's the exception. I think it's the majority of people. Either they want to get into a group to be in control of it or to get power out of it, or it's for a social reason.
mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. Well, I think on that note, I think we've covered this subject very well. I think it's a bit of a shorter episode, only due to the fact that technical difficulties in the beginning. Updates for OBS aren't always great. And I'm going to be screwing around with this thing trying to figure out what's going on, especially there's been a lot of buffering, guys. That might be due to the internet. That might be due to the OBS update. I need to figure out which is which. So, yeah. But would definitely, with the next episodes, it should be cleaner, hopefully. And no Satan and coffee tomorrow. We are going to London, so that's going to be a fun little trip. I'm actually going to be doing some actual sightseeing. So I'm going to be doing some of the touristy stuff. I'm going to get me a couple of pictures with the guys that have the furry penis hats. So
Make them laugh.
it's impossible, but
No words.
So
No
yeah.
words.
Gonna be doing some of that stuff tomorrow. So thank you all for showing up. Thank you for all coming. You guys are fucking amazing. Rook, make this a regular thing. Like, clear out your schedule on Saturdays to be a part of this. Like, I think this dynamic is great.
Thank you for having me.
Always, man.
I'm
You're always
trying.
welcome.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're always welcome. Your energy is awesome, man. All right. So, on that note, as always, hail thy fucking self. We'll see you in the next one. Peace the fuck out.
Deuce.